Well, Mr. Godot, if you really hadn't seen the hanging scroll until after the murder, you wouldn't have had any way of knowing that it was Misty Faye.
Wait a minute, Nick!
Yes?
Take another look at the hanging scroll! Look at the top! There's a crest there!
Right, the mark of the master.
Exactly! So if you knew the meaning of the mark...
Then you could guess that it was a picture of Misty Faye on there.
True, but Mr. Godot described what was underneath like this. Clad in her stunning Japanese garb, surrounded by the hue and aroma of Western tastes.
Oh.
It's possible that he knew what the crest meant. However, he couldn't have known that she was wearing Japanese clothing. Mr. Godot, on the day of the murder, you were hiding at the inner temple long before the crime took place.
Can I ask you just one little thing, Wright?
What is it?
This whole theory of yours, it all rests on a certain assumption. That I knew beforehand that a crime was going to be committed.
That's right! Otherwise, there's no reason for him to sneak into the crime scene.
Of course Mr. Godot knew about that.
Uh-huh.
What did you say? Is it really possible that another person knew that plan?
This crime was actually planned over a year ago. Morgan Fay authored the plan for her daughter's future, and these instructions were hidden somewhere in the Fay Manor for a year. However, by the time that the Pros found these instructions, they had already been unsealed.
Unsealed?
Yes, the killer had read these instructions long before Pros ever found them. And that's how I knew the crime was to take place at the inner temple.
And you still insist this crafty killer is me?
You bet I do.
But you just said that the instructions were hidden.
That's right! Mr. Godot couldn't have known where the instructions were hidden.
If he really wanted to know, he had one great chance to find out.
Yes, and when was that?
During a visit,
A visit?
Morgan Fay told her daughter Pro about where the instructions were hidden. During one of her visits to the detention center, that'd be the only time for someone to have learned where they were hidden.
Eavesdropping on a visit at the detention center?
Yes, it could be arranged if you were someone with easy access in and out of there. For example, a prosecutor such as Mr. Godot.
The man done fucked up.
Oh, say, Mr. Godot, you're under fire again!
This murder could not have been carried out without prior knowledge. And you were the only one that could have acquired this information before the murder.
Humans are afraid of the dark, and yet, at the same time, we're fascinated and bewitched by it. Maybe that's why humans are in the darkness that is coffee.
What?
What?
It means there's a reason for everything. According to your theory, the killer in this case eavesdropped on a conversation during a jail visit, where he learned a hidden plan for a crime. After discovering the plans, he hid in the inner temple and waited for the crime to occur. Then they ultimately took a person's life. And he did it all just to protect his witness?
That's right.
If you're accusing me of this crime, I have to ask you, why would I do this? This girl is nothing but a stranger to me. I've got no reason to go through that kind of trouble to protect her.
What'd you do?
I am what you see. I am certainly not the type to rescue the damsel in distress.
The fuck you ain't! Shut up!
The killer's behavior is certainly extreme, for a lack of a better word. Even considering that the killer wanted to protect this witness's life, his behavior is still a little too unnatural.
However, you had a good reason, didn't you, Miss Godot? An unshakable reason that forced you to protect this witness at all costs.
I knew it. You figured it out, haven't you, Nick?
Maya. I guess you were doing your best to cover for Godot. For the same reason.
Okay, right. I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
It's very simple. Maya Fey is a lot more than just a stranger to you.
What's this?
There is one person who lies at the very center of this whole story. One person that ties you and Maya Fey together, inextricably. There's a very good reason why Maya Fey's life is so precious to you. After all, she's Mia Fey's only sister.
Mia. Faye.
You once worked alongside her. That was when you were a defense attorney.
Wait a second here. Mr. Godot is a defense attorney?
With your Honor's piercing intellect, you must have figured it out by now. The real name of this man who calls himself Godot. His real name, Diego Armando. Isn't that right?
The last time someone called me by that name was over 6 years ago.
Diego Armando. That name rings a bell.
It should, Your Honor. All of this is related to a single case. A case in which a convict named Terry Falls killed himself. Mia Fey's first time in court. The tragic outcome left a deep wound in her heart. She knew that behind it all was a heartless, scheming demoness in disguise. But in the end, Mia couldn't tear off the disguise. However, there was one man who reached out to help her. Diego Armando, a senior defense attorney.
I was moved by her.
Aww.
The way she put all her faith in her clients, that pure, sweet heart of hers. That's why I could never forgive Talia Hawthorne. Me and I thoroughly investigated that fake kidnapping incident. Then one fateful day, Dahlia wanted to meet with me. It had been 6 months since that trial. We met in the courthouse cafeteria.
Ah, I just remembered. 6 years ago, right here in this courthouse, you were poisoned.
Even I didn't see it coming. Dahlia Hawthorne slipped some poison into my coffee.
Some newspapers at the time called it a murder, but very little information about the case was released to the press.
But you weren't dead at all.
No official reports were ever actually called it a murder. I was just in a deep, deep coma.
I see.
My body shut down, and my life became nothing but a long, deep sleep. That woman's poison did a real number on my central nervous system. I lost my sight, and all of my hair turned white due to the damage it caused.
trouble?
Apparently, it was a miracle that I ever regained consciousness. 5 years had passed since I drank that poisoned brew.
Taste.
Then one morning, my eyes flew open from the smell of a doctor's cup of coffee.
5 years? You were asleep for 5 years?
And the worst possible news was waiting for me. Mia Fey was dead.
Mi amor was dead.
From the very moment I opened my eyes, I had already lost everything I thought I had. That the woman I loved had been murdered, and the woman I loathed had been sentenced to death.
The woman you loathed?
The woman who had spiked my scalding hot coffee, Dahlia Hawthorne.
You drink scalding hot coffee?
Ow.
Ha! Good old Mia, she didn't let me think. She got her revenge before she checked out. In the end, there wasn't anyone waiting for me when I woke up.
That's so sad.
For someone like me, for someone who had slept away their best days. There were only 2 reasons left to live. And it was for those 2 reasons that I decided to become a prosecutor.
If I may ask, what were your 2 reasons to live?
The first was you, Wright.
Me?
If I hadn't drank that stupid poison, Mia Fey never would have died, much less the way she did.
Aw.
You were the only one who was there to protect her. But you let her die. It was all your fault.
It wasn't like that.
I wanted to see for myself what kind of man you really were.
So that's why you became a prosecutor.
My other reason for living, she goes by the name of Maya Fey.
What? Me?
You were the only way I could make up for the sin of not saving Mia. 1 year ago, when the Korean village incident was resolved, it was obvious that Morgan Fey was planning something. Whatever her horrible plan was, I was determined to stop it. My role as a prosecutor put me in the perfect position to do something about her.
That's how you overheard Pearl's visit with Morgan at the detention center.
I knew that the time was drawing near. Since I knew the plan, I thought I could foil it. My goal was to outwit the plan. I thought if I could do that, I could keep that girl from being caught up in it.
That does make sense. If Pearls had known that the actual purpose of the plan was to kill Maya, she never would have helped out.
Finally, the day of the plan was drawing near. I contacted both of my accomplices.
Accomplices?
Iris of Hazakura Temple and Misty Fey.
Like, all in on it.
I
What?
especially needed the help of Iris. She was to take the fall in my backup plan in case we couldn't control Parfait.
Eh.
How did you contact my mother? She had been missing for almost 20 years.
Officially, yes.
What do you mean, officially?
Damn.
You've heard about it, haven't you? About the strong ties between the main family and the government?
Now that you mention it, Bikini did say something about that. She said that the Master of Crane has great authority.
Even without her official position, Misty Fey still wielded great influence. The police have keeping an eye on her movements all this time. That's how I was able to contact her. Again, because of my position as a prosecutor.
Well, my mother was cooperating with you?
Don't never forget. No matter how far away from you she was, she never stopped thinking about you.
She was always...
That's why I knew she would do anything to protect you. If you want to know how strong her resolve was to protect, just look at her staff.
Her staff? The one with the sword in it?
The day the plan was to be carried out arrived soon enough. We met for the first time at Hasakura Temple. That's when your mother showed me her special stuff. I realized just how far she was willing to go. She was ready to use that sword to protect you from Morgan Fay, if necessary. Yes, even if it meant paying for the ultimate price.
Oh.
Mom,
Oh, I get. Oh, holy shit.
That night of the crime, there was just one way to stop Morgan's evil plan.
You mean pearls, don't you?
We had to make sure she didn't channel the Hawthorne. We thought we could prevent her from playing her part in Morgan's plan, but she never showed up.
he was worried and followed me to the inner temple.
And that was the thing we were most afraid of. And that's why Misty Fate had to do the channeling herself. She channeled Della Hawthorne into her own body.
What? What do you mean?
Wait, go on.
Sorry.
If she channeled the spirit first, then Pearls wouldn't be able to do it herself.
Oh,
As Master of Karain, Misty Fate's power was supreme. So that's how it went down. She channeled Della Hawthorne so that Pearl wouldn't be able to.
ah! Ah!
What? Is this true?
My role in the plan was to make sure no one was going to hurt Maya Fey. That's why I hid myself at the inner temple, just in case you needed to be saved from Della Hawthorne.
Rideau,
Anyway, that's all I'm going to admit to. Right.
huh?
There's no doubt about it. You're a great defense attorney. But you're going to have to do the rest yourself.
Damn, just put a mark on your back, why don't you? The background leading up to this incident has been laid bare. There's just one question remaining, Mr. Wright. Who killed the victim? There are only two possible suspects right now. Maya Fey. And I'm sad to say, but you too, Mr. Godot.
Well, right. If you're the real deal, then finish this thing once and for all. Show us beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can finish this thing on your own.
No, Nick, please don't.
Maya,
I heard the whole thing from my sister, the medical office. That's why I had to protect Mr. Godot. I can't do it. I can't testify against him. After all, he's the man who put his life on the line to protect Mia. And me too.
Maya, I know that.
Nick,
Even so, it doesn't absolve him of his crime. Maya, please, testify.
Miss Fey, your testimony, please.
This is the final testimony. Don't try to hide anything, because I'll know. I need to hear the truth from your own lips.
I understand. I'm sure you're right. I'm ready now, Nick.
Alright, young lady. Tell us about the moments before you lost consciousness. What exactly happened at the time of the murder?
Hmm.
Just before it happened, I think I saw some red lights. 3 of them. I thought I'd ask for help, but just then, I was splattered with blood. She He wasn't dead though. And then she struck back at the enemy behind her. Suddenly, the red lights went out and the whole area was dark. Just at that moment, there was a horrible scream. Right after that, Dahlia collapsed and I lost consciousness.
These red lights. I thought you said you don't remember seeing them.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw them, but then they disappeared all of a sudden.
Things break, right? Even the best of theories.
Mm,
Who was it that stabbed Misty Faye? It looks like you still can't prove it.
Eliana's telling the truth this time. I know it. The rest is up to me.
Well then, Mr. Wright. Proceed with your final cross-examination of the witness. Make it the final one.
Final one, yes.
Chris.
Light's shining in the dark. I don't think you could make a mistake about that.
Yeah, you're right. I think I saw them, but I can't say for certain. And I can't tell you for sure that they were from Mr. Godot's mask either.
I don't get the feeling she's covering from anymore, but... Just after that, you turned towards the lights and called for help. Isn't that because you thought the lights were coming from Mr. Godot's mask?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's why I was thinking at the time. But I can't remember, after all. There was a person I couldn't identify in front of me.
Maya's life was in terrible danger at the time. There's no way she can remember the scene perfectly.
Hold on, the cat gotta go in the closet.
Alright,
Okay. Alright then, let's go on with the testimony. What did you do when you saw the red lights?
what do you mean by just at that moment? Do you mean the moment when the red lights went out?
Yeah, that's right.
The scream that you heard then, was it Dahlia Hawthorne?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was a man's voice.
What? What? So inconsistent. So then, the scream came from the killer?
That's gotta be it.
I think Dahlia Hawthorne must have taken the blade and attacked the killer with it.
And then the killer let out a scream of pain, huh?
After that, the killer stole the blade back and delivered the final blow, I guess.
Well, Mr. Wright,
Dakota.
it seems to make sense to me.
It sounds like a reasonable deduction, but I still wonder. I'm sorry to say this, but that implication would create an enormous contradiction.
That makes sense. After all, my deductions are almost certainly never correct.
Remember the testimony she gave before the killer let out a scream. Maya said she had already been splattered by the victim's blood. In other words, the blade and the staff had already been plunged into the victim.
Is that right?
Tell me, you were there.
She couldn't have struck back with a sword that was already stuck in her body. The weapon that caused the killer to let out a scream must have been something other than the staff.
If you're so sure about that, then don't get us waiting any longer, Trite.
There's only one thing I can think of. That could have been used as a weapon here.
If Dahlia Hawthorne had already been stabbed in the back by her staff, what could she have used to strike back at the killer?
Huh. A knife.
Oh, a knife.
Naturally, the dagger the killer brought to the crime.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
The dagger was found at the crime scene, stuck into a pine tree.
Yes, the detective found that this morning and brought it to me.
Dahlia Hawthorne struck back at the killer with this, and she managed to wound him as well.
Just because he let out a scream doesn't mean that he was actually wounded. For all we know, the blood on the dagger could have been for the victim.
No, don't you remember?
Have you forgotten? The blood has already been tested. All we've learned is that the blood wasn't the victim's, so it must be the killer's. The killer must have a wound somewhere in the body.
Cavity search. So you're saying the blood on the dagger belongs to the killer?
Exactly. A DNA analysis of the blood would prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And yes, Mr. Kudo, it would prove that it's your blood, or oil, whatever you have.
Acid.
Nice theory, right?
Oh my god!
Is this the end? Have I done it?